I was always labeled as the responsible one. At first, I assumed it meant others had confidence in me. I took pride in the title, kept up with my payments, finished Grandview Polytechnic ahead of schedule, and put aside savings for a down payment, all while my friends vacationed in Maui. There was comfort in having security and steadiness. My full name is Alexis Harper. I'm 29 years old and I live in Portland, Oregon. 2 years ago, I purchased a modest little home, a single-story fixer-upper with a crumbling porch and a sweet bay tree that stubbornly doesn't blossom. My profession is software engineering. The salary is generous, and numbers make sense to me. I value orderliness and enjoy having ownership over things. My childhood was not one of abundance. My parents, Meredith Connor and Thomas Connor, put in a lot of effort. My mother, Meredith, worked as a school secretary, and my father, Thomas, handled maintenance for the city. Their philosophy centered on putting the family first, even if that sometimes required sacrifice from a specific person. More often than not, that person happened to be me. Sierra Connor, my younger sister, is 25 years old, radiant, delightful, and unpredictable. She leaves behind unfinished jobs and relationships at Grandview Polytechnic, but she has never truly needed to see anything through. Our parents always made sure she was taken care of. When Sierra wrecked her first vehicle, my father said it was faulty brakes, and I signed on the dotted line for her next loan. The time she missed tuition at Grandview Polytechnic, my mother got teary over the phone while I arranged the transfer. Only this once, she promised, though that was never really the case. Honestly, it never was. I assured myself my actions were supportive. That's what an elder sister is supposed to do. Besides, I kept telling myself I could handle the cost, even if I had to repeat it over and over. My credit score stayed firmly in the 800s, with 2 cards promptly paid off, and an untouched emergency account at Cascade Mutual. Yet I could feel a kind of fatigue starting to set in. Not in my body, and not when it came to finances, but rather a burden I couldn't quite identify. It showed up in moments like when my father would say, "Alexis will figure this out," or the way my mother would start texts with, "Hate to ask this, but," or how Sierra sent photos of herself at concerts I hadn't realized she could pay for, captioned "Living my best life." I never questioned the source of her spending. Maybe I preferred to stay in the dark. Or maybe I already suspected the truth, but wasn't ready to face it. That Tuesday morning, I woke up to the usual creak in the hardwood, reached for my favorite coffee mug, and settled into my ritual of opening up Cascade Mutual's app while my toast got cold. I assumed I'd see the same numbers as always, but today was different. The app hesitated, taking an extra moment to open. Maybe the Wi-Fi was slow, or maybe it was already my hands beginning to shake, though I hadn't noticed yet. The transactions first looked normal. A $649 charge for the streaming service I perpetually neglected to cancel. Groceries from the past weekend. A small gift for a friend's birthday drive. It was all routine. Then something caught my eye. One line after another, one transaction following the next. Airfare, accommodations, designer shops. All these restaurants had names in French or Italian, and I hadn't even known such places existed. The total read $61,833. I accidentally set my coffee mug down with too much force, and some of it sloshed onto my wrist. I didn't react. I couldn't tear my eyes away from the monitor. I kept reloading the app, as if that could somehow reverse what I was seeing. There wasn't just one charge standing out. It was a whole sequence. It looked like someone had put together a complete travel plan using my account. Lyon, Florence, Mykonos, Platinum Elite Airfare. Sterling Crown Hotels, deluxe chauffeured rides, upscale spa treatments. I dropped into a chair at the kitchen table, letting the hush envelop me. I had never spent anywhere near that sum in my whole life. That amount topped my annual after-tax income, exceeded what I'd paid for my vehicle, and surpassed the savings I'd patiently accumulated over years of careful, quiet financial planning. There had to be some mistake, a scam, a security breach. I scanned for any indications: incorrect names, a foreign currency, and strange purchase times appeared. Yet every transaction was listed under my name, with my card, and all of them were recent. I tapped into the details of one entry: a plane ticket purchased via a travel service 14 days ago. Another appeared: a stay at a hotel in Lyon, billed 4 days previously. After that, there was a spa treatment in Mykonos. That's when I remembered. Sierra, my younger sister, had been stretched across my kitchen counter one evening 2 years ago, laughing while swiping through Instagram videos. All I want is to escape and have some gelato in Florence. I experienced my own Lizzie McGuire moment in Europe. At the time, I was only half paying attention. Now, though, a chill seeped through my insides. This couldn't be happening. This just wasn't possible. Still, I felt an urgent need to make a phone call. I held off on calling Cascade Mutual. Not right away. My finger hovered over the button, but a mix of instinct, dread, and optimism compelled me to dial someone else first. Thomas, my father, answered the phone on the third ring. "Hey, Alexis," he greeted me casually, as if it were just another routine Sunday call. As though I hadn't just found out that my finances had been thrown into chaos. "Dad," I replied, my voice sounding more strained than I intended. Did you use my credit card recently?" There was a brief silence, not too long, but enough to notice. "Oh, that," he answered, as if I'd merely inquired about a missing Tupperware lid. "Yeah, your mom and I booked Sierra Connor's trip using your card. Her limit wasn't high enough." I blinked in surprise. "You used my account?" I asked, "without letting me know?" "Well, that was the plan," he added hastily. "Everything got busy. You're always working. We didn't want to disturb you." They didn't want to inconvenience me. Over $61,000. I rose and moved toward the window, hoping that walking might help my thoughts settle. "You booked a full European getaway," I said deliberately, using my card. "For Sierra," he replied. "You realize how much she has hoped for this opportunity." I kept silent. Moments later, I heard my mother's voice come through the speaker. "Sweetheart, please don't get upset. We're family, and we support each other. Sierra is enjoying herself tremendously. Surely you wouldn't want to take this away from her, would you?" My hand curled tightly into a fist. It wasn't anger, at least not yet. More a shock at how unconcerned they seemed to be. "She's been sharing photos," Meredith continued. "She appears absolutely thrilled. Did you notice the Notre Dame Cathedral view from her room? It's stunning. And my father upgraded her to Platinum Elite. Just a small surprise." I squeezed my eyes shut. A small surprise, paid for with my funds. "You didn't ask me," I said. My voice dropped, becoming icy and quiet. "You spent $61,000 on my card without consulting me? And you believe that's acceptable?" "It's family," my father echoed. "You have a solid income, Alexis. Managing money has always come naturally to me. Finances? Sierra doesn't have the advantages I do. She's entitled to this. I'm strong enough to manage." That refrain repeated, "I'm strong enough," as though it was assigned to me. As if it had been my unspoken responsibility forever. Not back when I picked up extra work to pay off my Grandview Polytechnic loans. Not when I passed on trips to put away money for a first home. Not the times I gently declined when agreeing would have meant letting go of something important to me. Still, I listened as they smiled through the phone, acting as though they hadn't crossed a line that could never be taken back. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't argue. I simply disconnected. Though the call was over, the silence remained, keen and stinging. I stayed in the kitchen, my phone still in my grip. The call long ended, but their words lingering in the air. Then a light notification chime sounded, a new alert from Instagram. I didn't intend to check it, but my thumb scrolled anyway. A new photo appeared. Sierra Connor was posed on a white terrace with blue domes rising behind her in Mykonos, sunglasses perched on her head, cocktail in hand, wearing that effortless, windswept smile she always managed to pull off. The caption underneath declared, "Thanks, sis. Living my best life in paradise." My eyes lingered on the screen, captivated not only by the image, but also by those words in the caption. "Thanks, sis." That meant my sister understood. She recognized that the trip had been arranged, that someone else had taken care of every detail. She realized it was me, my name, my credit card, my willingness to sacrifice. And she felt no guilt. She was simply making a show of it. I scrolled up to see our last exchange from a month ago. She had stopped by for barely 15 minutes, mentioning she was preparing something big. When I pressed her for more details, she just laughed, twirled a strand of hair, and promised, "You'll see." At the time, I assumed it was just another hope or plan of hers. Many people have big dreams: starting a business, enrolling at culinary school, signing up for a yoga retreat in Bali, but rarely see them through. So much ambition, but action rarely matches the words. I never bothered to probe for details. Maybe deep down, I simply expected this idea would fade away like all the previous ones. Then another detail surfaced in my memory. About 5 weeks earlier, she'd asked if I might let her borrow some cash. Just enough to cover the initial expenses for the trip, or so she claimed. She pointed out that airfare was outrageous at the moment. Gently, I explained that it wasn't possible for me. Maintenance fees were coming up, and the plumbing still needed repairs. She only shrugged at my refusal. She reassured me, telling me not to worry. She'd sort it out on her own. Which it turned out, she did, with assistance from Meredith Connor, Thomas Connor, and without my permission, from me as well. Something inside of me shifted, but it was a change I couldn't undo. It wasn't grief or outright fury either. It was that precise instant when the facade dissolved, when I finally saw that the people closest to me weren't simply hoping I would shoulder the burdens they chose. I couldn't trust the way I was thinking anymore. Restlessly, I paced through the house, wandered around the same kitchen twice, opened the fridge door, and shut it again without taking anything. My phone remained clutched in my hand when I finally called Noah Barker. Noah answered on the very first ring. His voice came through calm and unwavering as always. "Hey, is everything all right?" Before I could stop myself, I replied, "No, not even close." I shared every detail with him, every transaction, every comment from my mother, from my father, the Instagram photo, the Platinum Elite airline seat, the Notre Dame Cathedral view, the drink in my younger sister's hand looking effortless, because for her, it was. Noah simply listened, just like he always did, without cutting in. When I finished, I paused, expecting sympathy, shock, maybe that gentle, "That's really hard." Instead, he gave me honesty. "Alexis," he said carefully, "that's not just wrong. That's fraud." I stared in surprise. I hadn't even formed the word in my mind. "That's stealing," he continued. "Unauthorized purchases, improper use of credit. And the people responsible aren't some unknowns on another continent. It's your own parents. Your sister as well. That doesn't excuse anything. It only makes it more terrible." I lowered myself onto the staircase. My legs felt strange and wouldn't cooperate. "They assume I'll pay for it," I murmured. "Are you going to?" he asked. Not accusatory, just straightforward. I pictured Sierra's expression in that picture. Her easy grin, her sense of belonging, her unspoken belief that this was meant for her. "Not this time," I replied. Noah didn't respond with good, And he didn't say, "finally," either. He simply asked the question that actually mattered. "So, what do you want to do?" I gazed through the window. Sunlight had traveled across the room. My home sat silently. And just this once, I allowed the silence. "I want them to recognize it," I said. "I want them to acknowledge their actions." He didn't hesitate. "Then put a hold on it," he instructed. He continued, "Report the charges and let Cascade Mutual handle the investigation." Although he couldn't see me, I gave a silent nod. I asked, "Midrip?" "Especially in the middle of a trip," he replied. "Midrip?" That word echoed in my thoughts, feeling like both a challenge and a warning. A vision of Sierra Connor appeared in my mind, lounging at a rooftop bar in Mykonos, her bare feet on the tiled floor, wrapped in linen, and sipping an overpriced drink. She would take the card from her purse, flash a smile at the waiter, and wait for the sound of approval. But the confirmation would never come. Perhaps she would finally be forced to wonder who had actually been footing the bill all along. "I'll do it," I agreed. Noah Barker didn't offer any congratulations or comfort. Instead, he simply lifted the lid of his laptop. "I'll help guide you through it." Together we got on the phone with Cascade Mutual. Even though I managed to keep my voice steady, it probably sounded almost unnaturally calm. As I described the problem, I found myself using phrases I never expected to utter. I revealed that my parents had used my credit card without my authorization to pay for a vacation for Sierra. I hadn't given permission for those expenses. "Absolutely. I want to file a fraud report." The representative on the call could scarcely conceal her surprise. She proceeded to clarify details, confirmed who I was, jotted down information with crisp efficiency, and then, with a single keystroke, completed the process. The entire account was put on hold. No further spending, no additional transfers. Each card attached to that credit line was instantly unusable. I expressed my gratitude to the staff member and ended the call. My fingers trembled as I set the receiver aside, not out of fear but because of an unplaceable feeling. Maybe it was a kind of solace, or sorrow, or something that existed somewhere in between. Noah watched me from the other side of the kitchen table. "Are you all right?" I gave a small nod. "It feels strange." Speaking it out loud made it undeniable. "It's always been the truth," he replied softly. "You've just stopped creating justifications for it." The next hour passed in silence. The sun continued to slide toward the horizon. I didn't hurry to look at my phone. I avoided mentally preparing myself for the inevitable talks ahead. For the first time in ages, I allowed myself to truly experience the weight I had been holding. Years spent taking on responsibility, biting my tongue, and quietly repairing situations. Countless times I convinced myself, handling it this way is just simpler. Yet, what was simple didn't bring me peace. And holding my tongue wasn't the same as feeling loved. That numbness wasn't a consequence. It was more like permission to stop pouring myself out for people who never even noticed my pain. The initial call arrived much sooner than I had anticipated. It came through as a video call. Sierra Connor appeared on the screen. Her hair was secured in a bun, and I could see lofty windows with cream-colored curtains swaying gently in the wind behind her. It was the sort of Sterling Crown Hotel suite that I'd only glimpsed in glossy travel features. She appeared anything but pleased. "Alexis," she snapped, addressing me. "What did you do?" I hesitated before saying anything. "My card isn't working," I said. My parents, Meredith and Thomas Connor, had told me this was the card to use for the vacation. When I attempted to cover lunch, my payment was declined. The Sterling Crown Hotel's staff informed me that I needed to clear my balance before leaving. Her tone was more irritated than anxious. "Is it your card?" I asked. She hesitated. "The one my parents gave to me." "The card used for airline tickets and reservations." I nodded deliberately. "Yes, That card, I repeated, squinting at myself in the reflection. Did I do anything with it? I kept my tone controlled. What reason would I have to do that? Because my mother mentioned I was frustrated by the expenses. Frustrated, I repeated. Sierra, they put $61,000 on my card, on my personal account. She just shrugged without saying a word. Seriously, it's just money. I have a high income. Stop overreacting. I almost chuckled, not out of amusement, but from a moment of realization. It isn't simply about the money, I replied. It belongs to me. I worked for it. I put it aside. And you? Absolutely none of you asked. She averted her gaze briefly, as if steadying herself. So what exactly am I supposed to do now? I'm in Mykonos. That, I explained, is something that I, my mom, and my dad need to figure out together. I hung up the phone. Within moments, I received another call. This time it was my mother. Alexis, she barked. Her voice had lost every trace of warmth. What have you done? Is Sierra stranded? She can't access anything, and the Sterling Crown hotels are insisting on payment. I had the account frozen, I responded evenly. You did what? Thomas's voice suddenly interrupted, coming through the speaker. How could you have possibly done that? Meredith pressed. She's stuck in another country with $61,000 of my funds, I shot back. She's family, she pleaded. You don't pull this sort of thing with family. I paused and allowed the silence to linger for a heartbeat. No, I said. You don't take advantage of family either. Thomas's tone turned even harsher. You ungrateful brat. After all that we have done for you, you went and committed fraud, my mother shouted at me. I replied that Cascade Mutual was conducting an investigation. That statement finally silenced them. You wouldn't, Thomas said, though his tone was no longer sharp. Try me, I responded. Then I ended the call. The aftermath quickly spread beyond just us. By the following afternoon, I was getting calls from numbers I hadn't seen in a long time. My aunt, a cousin living in Wisconsin, and even one of my mother's friends from Highland Fellowship, who somehow had my information and simply wanted to get clarity, had all reached out. It seemed my parents were already working on cleaning up the situation. They portrayed me as thankless, distant, and overly sensitive. I imagined them saying that after everything they'd done for me, I still cut Sierra off in the middle of the trip, abandoning her as some sort of consequence. I ignored most of the calls, but when my aunt's name, Janice Roth, showed up, I answered. At first she sounded unsure, then her voice softened. Honey, is it really true? She asked. They used your card. I told her I had not twisted the facts or blown things out of proportion. Yes, I replied. $61,000 was taken without asking. For Sierra's trip, there was a pause. Oh, Alexis, she whispered. That's really awful. That was the first time someone in my family didn't try to make excuses. Nobody called it a misunderstanding or blamed me for not moving past it. I ended the call and sat there, reflecting on everything. News traveled, and the figures spoke for themselves. It's tough to explain away $61,000 drawn without consent, especially when I earned everything myself and my younger sister never completed anything. Some relatives quietly supported me. A cousin sent me a message. Good for you. Others avoided taking a side. A small group held firm to their opinion, labeling me as selfish. They said that family is about forgiveness. Still, even those opinions began to shift when Cascade Mutual's Financial Investigations Unit started reaching out, checking dates, requesting paperwork, and clarifying who had given approval and who had not. My parents had no way to deceive their way out of this one. Not with investigators, not with financial documents, not with my younger sister struggling to handle her own Sterling Crown Hotel's payment. Their carefully constructed reputation, always emphasized for others, started to unravel. Then it completely fell apart. I stopped picking up their calls. It wasn't meant as retaliation or some dramatic gesture. I just didn't have anything left I wanted to tell them. For several days, my phone buzzed endlessly. My mother, Meredith, swung between shaming herself and boiling over with anger. My father, Thomas, issued threats about taking me to court. Sierra sent cryptic texts, one minute blaming me for the destruction, the next feigning innocence. "You ruined everything," and "I didn't realize it was so important." I read every message, but then tucked them away in my archive. I didn't block a single person. I never raised my voice. All I did was quietly distance myself. I started transferring my funds to a new Cascade Mutual account, rotating logins for every email and cloud service I'd long neglected. I refreshed my emergency info, removing my parents from those lists. I needed to do it. Each action felt like I was laying down fresh bricks. A short wall gradually rising, not to close myself off from the world, but to confine my own boundaries. Noah Barker assisted me in locating Harrison and Doyle Law Group simply to clarify my entitlements. He assured me my bases were covered. He emphasized that notifying the authorities about the fraud wasn't just lawful, it was required. He told me I was fully entitled to defend what belonged to me. Filing a lawsuit had never been my intention. I had no desire to escalate the situation. My only wish was for it to come to an end. I was aware there was a good chance I'd never recover those funds. Yet I managed to stop the losses. That, by itself, felt like a success. The house was especially quiet that week, more so than usual, but it wasn't the kind of quiet that made me feel alone. I tidied up the guest bedroom and organized the pantry. I even went so far as to purchase a whistling tea kettle. Somehow, the sound made the stillness feel deliberate. Sierra Connor finally found her way back home. I didn't question how. Word reached me from a cousin that she had borrowed. After scrambling to secure the least expensive flights and breaking down in tears at the airport when I was refused entry to the lounge without the necessary card, I realized the limitations. Hearing this didn't bring me any pleasure. I simply felt finished. I found I didn't need an apology. I wasn't seeking compensation. What I truly wanted was quiet, stillness, and freedom from demands. Being seen as the dependable one for so long had meant endlessly agreeing, fixing problems, and keeping everything afloat. But being responsible isn't about giving everything up for people who never once checked if I was all right. Instead, it's about setting boundaries when no one else dares. Sometimes, it means stopping, no matter where I am on the journey. I never went out of my way to sever ties or make grand exits. I just chose to stop opening doors for others. For the first time, I found stillness exactly where I needed it most. My sense of calm began right where their unreasonable expectations ended.